2010 Winter Olympic track at Whistler in Canada has a reputation for being fast and challenging. What it's also done today is produce a stunning first heat and setting us up for a gangbusters decider in the opening race in the four-man bobsleigh BMW IBSF World Cup. Hello everybody, I hope you are buckled in tight because me, Martin Haven and John Morgan have got a big race in store.
Well, we had an unbelievable start. Steve Holcomb, all of a sudden he got into this brand new BMW sled, 4 trips in it this week. It's a prototype, and decided to race it and didn't have very good start time, 12th best start, but on the bottom he was smoking on the track there. He won the Olympic gold medal in 2010, Holkey. But next up, Rico Peter. He should have been arrested for reckless driving. He was all over the track coming down. But sometimes the roughest rides are the fastest, and if there's ever a good example of one, this was it. He's in second. He won a silver medal last night in the 2-man, so he's started off a pretty good season, but look at him. He knows he was close to being on the edge. And, well, this guy here, Stolman Kasanov, he's 4th at the Olympic Games in 2-man and 4-man in Sochi. Tonight, he's got a start time, and you give this Russian athlete a start time, he is going to be on top of the leaderboard like he is right now. But Martin, boy, is it close.
This is unbelievably tight. You wait till you see the gaps between these sleds. Our leader has got an 1100ths of a second advantage, and there he is limbering up. Behind Rico Peter, 800ths back to Stephen Holcomb. But look, 3rd to 10th, 1100ths of a second, 8 sleds battling for the bronze medal. You don't get 800-meter runners within 1100ths of a second of each other. This is going to be absolutely insane. And our fastest sleds will go last on the ice. Look how tight it is outside the top 10. 100th or 2 over a mile of ice at speeds of up to 85 miles an hour, over 150 kilometers an hour.
It's going to be pretty exciting. Good crowd on hand.
Saturday night racing. Hey, works in Bristol, works in Dover, Delaware, works in Whistler in Canada as well. They've been out in the powder all day long, and they are here in the nighttime to watch some astonishing racing. And look at it, here you can lean almost on the wall of the track. You're so close to the action. Our sleds go in reverse order of their first heat performance. The Netherlands go off first, Ivo de Bruin, who was the tail gunner in the field. Then the Koreans, Cody Basque of the USA, Francis Loic Kosterg, and then working our way up into the top 10 and that battle. Benny Meyer, Chris Spring, Francesco Friedrich, Lamin Dean, Maxim Andrianov, Justin Kripp, Stephen Holcomb, the Olympic champion here 6 years ago, all in the battle for bronze or silver or gold. 3 tenths cover the top 10 from 1st to 10th, and that is not a big amount of time to give away with a mistake on this track.
Usually you see in tracks like Innsbruck and Winterberg that are short 1,250-meter tracks, a lot of close racing, but on a 1,500-meter track like this, usually it's not that close, especially because it's the fastest track on the planet.
First sled on the ice for the Netherlands, Ivo de Bruin. Started 5:02, the least speedy getaway in the field. Brand new crew, his #1 brakeman, Olaf van der Geest, had a burst appendix after racing here last weekend. Went under surgery on Monday and is currently still in hospital.
Hope for him.
494, that's almost a 10th of a second quicker.
Yeah, but the #2 guy was waiting for the 3 and 4 guys to get in, couldn't get down. So he went around that first curve, rocking the sled back and forth. That'll affect their start speed, velocity.
These 4 have rarely raced together, if at all, in the 4-man, so it's all still feeling their way around. Ivo de Bruin knows the track well, married to Christine de Bruin, who slid for Canada earlier in the day in the 2-man women's race.
He's a pretty accomplished driver a few years ago when he had some Dutch funding, but the Dutch Olympic Committee has not supported these guys. And they got nickels and dimes, and get out here on tour, it's a tough challenge to compete with the rest of the teams.
Speed at the bottom, over 92 miles an hour, 93.7 through the finish trap.
500's better than he was in his first run, even though he was considerably better at the start. He was 800s better, but only 5 downtime. Might be relative to the number 2 guy, who's about 6'5", couldn't get down as they went around curve 1. Right here, watch this now. The number 2 guy, he's waiting for 3 and 4 to get settled. That's a normal procedure. That's too late, though. That's a choreography on ice, we call it. And he just couldn't get down in time, and you saw that little skid out of the first curve.
Well, there's Ivo de Bruyn. You can speak Dutch to the family back home. Speaks English here with his family in Canada. Sukhyun Jin of Korea with Kim Kwembo, Lee Dongming and Yang Kinun. That is the team. And Suk, the only 4-man driver. Korea had 2 sleds in the 2-man race, and for the first time ever today, they had 2 sleds in the women's race. They've never had a World Cup entry in women's bobsleigh. Today, they went in with 2 sleds.
6'9" brakeman, tallest guy I've ever seen in the sport. Although I think the Serbians had a tall guy.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? But he is an absolute giant. You can see him bent double. He's almost as tall as everyone else.
Well schooled at the start, 46 in that heat, 48 in the first heat. This is not one of the 2 drivers who 2 Korean sleds in the top 6 last night, including a silver medal. Koreans won the gold medal earlier today in skeleton. Unbelievable how advanced they are in the sport, just 15 months out of the Pyeongchang Olympics. It's tough to get these 4-mans in a skid, but when you do, watch out.
8700s in front of the Dutch sled. Their first round advantage was 6/10.
The speed is, wow, record-setting speeds here. 92.5 there, 52.05. So he's slower by 2/10.
Yeah, we'll see
in the first
153
run.
kilometers an hour. We'll see over 94 miles an hour probably by the end of this race. That's 94 miles an hour on ice with no brakes. Just think about doing that in your street car and then think twice.
Okay, look at the aerodynamic profile here. This is the real pivotal part of the track, and look at that skid. That's tough to do with a 4-man, but he did it.
This is like a long wheelbase twin wheel pickup truck, isn't it? Get that sideways in the ice, takes a lot to bring it back. Third of our sleds in the second deciding heat of the 4-man bobsleigh season opener is the USA's Cody Basque. His home track is Lake Placid, where we race World Cup action in 2 weeks from now. Frank Del Duca, Adrian Adams, and Christopher Kinney behind him in the Night Train. The Night Train 2, this sled.
He just got in the sled the other day, 2 trips with it. Didn't have a very good start, not a bad start, 6th best, 7th best start, but he had problems getting around the first curve. Lost a lot of time at the top of the track in the first heat for this young pilot from Whitehall, New York.
Like driving race cars, this is all about feel, sensitivity, and if you're not familiar with the machinery...
Great start time. Again, he taps coming out of that first wall, 67.3. Keep your eyes on that start speed. Also, curve 4, he had some problems here in the first run. Now watch this coming up here. Now watch the exit here on the right. The sled comes up in the air. Yes, it does. But he gets around the curve with a skid. We've seen a couple sleds almost crash there in the first heat. That's good. Young, improving pilot. Pretty good start he got. 1500's lead should be more than that. Losing time back here.
Well, he's only 500s in front of the Koreans from the first heat. He's a quarter of a second up. And at the line, 152.5, good speed.
51.73, it's 700s better. Great start though, 479 start. That would have put him in the top 4 in the starts. So USA's got some good athletes. They've been shuffling crews, a lot of selection, US team selection trials. Cody Basque won the US selection trials, but of course he was driving a much older sled. He's only got 3 trips in this sled, 4 with the first heat. And that little tap out of the first curve, not what you want. Now watch him here in the finish. You're going uphill here. You want to be able to not do that. He had that little skid, and that's costly. A couple hundreds here and there, but Mark, a couple hundreds is a lot in this race.
It might well be the difference between gold and not taking a medal. That will all be decided later. Our fourth contender in this second and deciding heat is Frenchman Loïc Costerg, joining Hauteville and Vincent Costel, new to the team at 2 and 3, and Jérémy Bouterin. A little bit of Allez les Bleus going on at the top of the track from, I guess, some Québécois fans. 700ths of a second, their advantage from the first heat over Cody Basque. And any mishap, any slight error will erase that.
Had a very good start in the first heat.
Classic red, white and blue of the French colours on the sled and on the race suits, and a slip there from the man at 3, Vincent Costel.
49, same start as he had in the first heat. Let's see if he gets around here clean. He does get around the first curve clean. 65.1, that is a deplorable start speed. That's how you get in the sled, sit down and get around the first curve. Listen to the sound of this thing. It's big performance.
Which they finished, so athletes should be getting faster as they make their way down.
Still the green though.
Only just 500ths of a second. Ooh!
Still 12, it's blowing away.
Don't forget he had 700ths from the first heat.
Down to 9, so he should have enough. This is going to be close, but he should have enough.
Just 400ths of a second. Cody's run was quicker, but Loïc Costerg had just enough in hand to keep his nose in front across the line. He has the lead of the race.
Boy, he had a deficient start, but great lines down the track. No, this guy can drive. Le Plan France, which is a pretty good speed track. Little tap there, he goes into the pivotal part of the track. Look at the back end of the sled come up there. This is a 50-50 curve. He got away with a mistake at curve 11. By the time he got to 13, he was okay.
There is your French crew. They lead first 4 sleds down in this second heat at the Olympic track in Whistler. For Brazil, and wearing black armbands for their compatriots and the rest of the 70+ souls that lost their lives in that air crash earlier this week in Colombia. The team of Edson Bingliati, the driver, Edson Martins, Audelay Pisoni, and Rafael Souza da Silva. And what they lack a little in experience, they more than make up for in heart and passion. And John Edson, the driver, neither back on the blocks with the crew or on the front handle. He stands in the middle of the sled.
48, decent, compared to their first heat time of 491. Decent start speed too. Did good, bottom part of the track, huge. He was really had this sled motoring. Slap there. It's hard to get these big sport utilities in trouble, but when they do get in trouble, watch out. It's falling away here a little bit.
Just a fraction behind Loïc Costerg of France. He was 600ths quicker than the Frenchman in the first heat.
Hanging in there.
He had a good-looking first run.
He's hanging in there, he's coming back. Good speed.
Manning has done a great job with these guys, fitness-wise and driving-wise. Third place, 700ths out of the lead.
Brazil, though, look at the way they're dressed.
Yeah.
Very proud athletes here. Great track and field backgrounds. Joe Manning has built a pretty good program here. These guys spent a lot of time training in the UK this summer.
Summer in Brazil or summer in Sheffield in North Yorkshire? Sheffield it was.
Look at the size of these guys. Look at the fitness. These are some athletes here that are starting to get accustomed to this winter sport. Not a lot of bobsled runs down in Brazil.
Loïc Costerg of France, the leader. Top 3 covered by 700ths, and it will stay tight. Germany's Nico Walter was in 14th position in the first heat of the 4-man, had a pitiful time yesterday in the 2-man competition. The Germans are here with 3 different sled lineups, testing sleds and runners. And whatever Nico was testing yesterday, they're going to try that again in a hurry. It did not work.
Kevin Kuska, ride number 2, Alexander Rodeker. These guys were part of the 2010 Andre Longa team that still hold the start record on this track. Watch out, that's the second time he's done that. Out of those start blocks, that the start crews saw those runners, was trying to get control of the sled, not hit into the wall. But, you know, this is a brand new FES Berlin sled. He's got 2 of these, 2 and a 4. Didn't do well with it last night, like we talked about. And the other German pilot who won the event last night is driving brand new roller sleds. So the Germans are testing sleds. And Nico might have gotten bad luck of the draw.
Corner 9, halfway down, he has stopped gaining time on Costerg of France. He was 2,900 up, he's still
there.
only 2,800s in France. 27, the gap is coming down. It'll be enough to take the lead.
Ducks his head nicely.
But nothing like what he wants.
Yeah, no, this guy, look at Randy Spiess on the right, Leopold, the trainer on the left.
And I tell you what, he's done his job as a test driver. A 51.62 first heat, a 51.63 second heat. He has repeated.
Yeah, good starts, very consistent start
But the
times.
kit is not what should work here.
Yeah. But watch, they might have run too far here. Now watch this grooves. He's out of the grooves now. He doesn't have his hands on the D-rings. He's playing with them. That's a mistake. But watch the skid here too. This is 90 miles an hour. He's got that thing in a skid. Wow. Nico, better days are coming for you.
Yep. He's too good a 4-man driver for that to be representative of where he is. Nico Walter leads the race. Germany's Nick Cunningham next up for Germany. Nick Cunningham next up for the USA. Let's get those words in the correct order. He was first on ice at the beginning of the evening. Nathan Gilslider, Brent Vogt, Chris Vogt's brother.
Looks like him.
Yeah, no kidding. They cast from the same mold. Hakim Abdul Sabur returns to the squad. He's the brakeman in the center of the back row. Brakeman, for those of you new to the sport, only pulls on the brakes after the run is completed on the uphill outrun, just to scrub off some of that 90+ mile an hour speed.
Chris Kenny, George Washington University track and field guy. He runs professional track in Japan, speaks Japanese. That is his home.
Lots of noise here for the Americans in Canada. Wait till we get to Lake Placid in a fortnight.
Yeah. Well, this is the sled that won the Olympic gold medal in 2010 that I trained won. Ooh, big skid there. That's very costly. Very costly. Red numbers already. Ooh, tap there too. But he went from +5 to +4. That's not a bad sign, even with those 2 skids. He keeps it +4, +6. He's got a chance here in the bottom. The German sled didn't have great speeds in the bottom. Oh, but he's all the way back. So those mistakes caught up to him.
Nico Walter 4th in last year's season's rankings. Nick Cunningham 16th.
Ooh, watch out here. Watch out. No, recovered
back.
Real high on 11. Covered well.
Gonna lose 5
there,
spots.
Thunderbird.
Plunging down the order, and at the line, he will be in 5th place.
Fell behind his teammate, too.
And still 12 sleds to go. Coach Brian Scheimer shakes his head, and Cunningham will do likewise.
Yeah, that little tap, you know, not a bad start. 3rd best start, only a couple hundredths out of the best start. But came around that first curve and really made a crucial mistake, and can't do that on this track. This is down below. Look how high he gets there, and watch it come down. Centrifugal force comes back up, and this is the pivotal part of the track where you really have to set yourself up for the gold rush and the speed. Look how high he gets there.
Race being led by Nico Walter of Germany from Loic Costerg of France. Next up for Canada, more noise for Nick Polignato, Daniel Sunderland, Derek Plug, and Keenan McDougall. And they set off bright and early from the blocks.
Nice 46, pretty much like they had the first run. Very good exit of curve run. Nick sort of had a coming out party. Won one of the races in the Canadian selection races held earlier this month on this track in Calgary.
Here comes
Listen to the sounds of these big four-man sleds. 500's back. There's time available for him on the bottom, but boy, he had a nice skid there. So now we're getting near the 90-mile-an-hour speeds. Look at the heads. Nice, smooth transition. Another, ooh, a little quick, abrupt change there. Speed's decent. I don't know. He's going to drop back at least one. Fourth best time of the run. And Nico Walter gets some success out of the deal. So the Canadian home crowd gives the boys an appreciative tap into the finish here. Start time. Give him 600-700s better. He'd be atop the leaderboard.
Nico Walter opened up a quarter of a second advantage ahead of his rivals. He is our race leader, with Johannes Lochner of Germany also outside the top 10 in the first heat. Now this young man making his World Cup debut as a four-man driver. New boys Matthias Kargerhuber, Sebastian Marocca and Christian Rasp are the team.
This is another Wallner, this is Wallner sleds, last year's model. So they're testing 3 different types of sleds here. 2 different sets of Wallners and one FES Berlins amongst the German team. See that Bunders police, that's 2/3 of the German team are either border police or start great, good loads. Junior world champion 2 and 4 a couple times, wasn't he?
Yep.
You know, as under the age of 25. Second in the world championships in 2015 as a 20-year-old kid.
Starting to ease away a little bit from Nico Walter. He had a 1/10 of a second in hand from the first heat. He's just about doubled that.
Nice lines. As soon as I said that, got a little.
I think the hashtag for this track is going to have to become hashtag fast and loose, because that's the way it works here. 3100s, he was a 1/10 over Walter. He's opened up 2100s in one run alone. This, the head coach now, René Spies.
1000's better.
Yeah,
In that run.
it's a big run from him. And that's going to put him into potentially a top 10 finish, and who knows how much further up.
This is his first real World Cup four-man race, right?
First ever.
First ever, so loves the track. First time he's been here. Look at the aerodynamic profile. Look at the heads here. He gets a little late here, and I watch the heads. You know, little skid there, 90, probably 1 miles an hour.
Got it off nicely, didn't have to really fight it too much, and that's the secret. And it is Johannes Lochner who leads this four-man race with 10 to go from teammate Nico Walter. But 2 German sleds out of the top 10 at the moment. Worth pointing out that Johannes Lochner starting 4:76. John, just 600ths of a second off the all-time start record, which dates back to the 26th of February 2010. Andre Langer, Alex Rödinger, Kevin Kuska and Martin Putzer, their Olympic start record still stands.
Well, we saw the start record go down in the women's race today.
Yep.
Kaylee Humphries
2 times.
But then Alana Myers broke it by 300ths even more, but she crashed in the race, didn't finish her Kerry Jones bailed out. She got disqualified, so that time doesn't count.
Yep. Good news is Alana says that they're a little banged up and bruised, but other than that, no broken bones, no tears, no worries over concussions.
That little Kerry Jones, too, was, you
Yeah.
know, she was big smile on her face afterwards, and what an athlete she is.
Yeah. They are A-OK and say they will be racing in Lake Placid, which is exactly what US Bobsleigh Skeleton Federation wants to hear, and exactly what the Lake Placid organisers, Tony Carlino and his crew, and all the fans will want to see as well. America's #1 woman bobsledder back in action. Jamie Grubel-Poser had a good run as well in the women's race. She finished in the bronze medal position. Christina Hengster took silver, and the winner of this race in 2010, the winner of this race as well in January this year, Kaylee Humphries, she claimed the gold medal for the second time in 11 months.
Good crowd on hand. The
Yeah.
Whistler Sliding Center.
We're busy in the centre of the Whistler Village this evening.
Spectacular venue. This, if you ever get a chance, the 2019 World Bobsled Championships are going to be here, and skeleton.
Track is clear for Alexi Stillman.
A blustery evening at the Whistler Sliding Centre. Season opener for the BMW IBSF World Cup. We're in the second and deciding heat of the four-man competition. Russia's Alexei Stulnev lies in 10th place. Now, he's 3/10 off the lead. He is 11 hundredths out of second. And he and the next 8 sleds are covered by 8 hundredths of a second. Buckle up.
First of 3 Russian teams who, Russians pretty organized, even though they're without their Canadian coach, Peter Lewis. This team here, I busted them the first team. The number 2 guy's up too high. Aerodynamic profile is so important on the fastest track on the planet. You got to have perfect aerodynamics. The number 2 guy, not only do you see him, but you see because he's up so high, his helmet is always shaking back and forth.
We see him, which means the wind
Sees him. Bang there.
500's advantage from the first heat is all gone. He's 800s
Yeah, but
behind
these Russian
Johannes
sleds
Lochner.
were pretty fast on the bottom, but he's
Yeah.
losing more time back. Let's see if he gets through here.
He's in second place at the moment, splitting the 2 Germans.
No, he's just going about 94.8 miles an hour.
Across the line,
150.5.
150.5. Johannes Lochner on the left has the lead. He will finish no worse than 10th place now, but he wants more. So Stulnev, the first to stumble, and with all these next sleds separated by 1 or no more than 2 hundredths of a second, not tenths, hundredths, this is going to be snakes and ladders now.
You know, I'm looking at the start times. There's already 5 teams in the first 10 that have come down. They're all in the 70s in the starts. The athleticism in this sport has improved. So, I mean, not the top 3 sleds, but we're getting 9, 10 teams that are all great start teams.
Yeah.
So the sport has attracted some unbelievable athletes in the last few years. And here's another upcoming team right here.
Another man who played fast and loose in the 2-man yesterday and in the first heat of the 4-man. Back it in, Benny Meyer, with Stefan Lauseger, Marcus Sammer, and Donat Moldovan behind him. He entered at corner 9, the one that drops away sharply to the driver's left was his nemesis in the 2-man. Trying to get the
Joseph
crowd.
there, getting the crowd involved. He knows they're over there.
100th ahead of Stulnev, 600ths ahead of Johannes Lochner from the first heat.
In, get down, low 80s. Yep, 81. Look at him come around the first curve. Look at the skid. Nope, perfect. Not a very good start velocity, though.
Told me in the World Championships at the end of last year in Austria that at the beginning of the season he was ready to walk away forever from bobsledding. He felt it had given him up. His girlfriend persuaded him to try it one more time. He ended up nearly winning a couple of races by the end of the season.
He won a silver medal in St. Moritz, and then it was the European Championships. Big news before the World Championships in Innsbruck. 22 years old. Knows how to build his own sleds. I mean, the kid is a student of the game, and he's young.
He needed to be wilder or more reckless or more something because he goes down by
8th
half a
best
second.
time. Wow. Falls back 4 spots. There's his father on the right, Manfred. That's not good. It's okay. This is a coming out party for him. Wasn't here last year. And you're going to see more of this kid the next couple of years.
Yeah, that there is no doubt.
They didn't brake. They get it all the way up to the top. The brakes, they put the brakes on too quickly. Look at the heads, aerodynamic. Look at the outlet of the curve. Looks good there. He looks pretty high there. The number 2 guy's right behind him. And Oh, the aerodynamic profile. You can't just ride these sleds like you're a sandbag. You got to feel yourself down the track. Got to stay tucked in. That air, as it comes over the top of those of the driver, and the dirty air, they call it, as it exits the sled, really, really important for the aerodynamics in hundreds of seconds.
Next up, Chris Spring of Canada in 8th place after the first heat, 0.07 of a second in front of our current leader, Johannes Lochner. More yellow jackets behind him means another German crew is limbering up to follow him down the ice. But what can this Canadian do? Born in Darwin in Australia's Northern Territory, started his career sliding for Aussies. And now for Canada.
478 in the first run. That was the second best start. This could be 477 here.
Zealous Brown will be looking for them to be the fastest starting crew. That's a good lead as well.
There's the 478. Watch the tips. Nice. Springer shouldn't be back here. Could be bad runner selection. There was rumors that the Canadians didn't have good runners on last night. Spring didn't do so well in the two-man.
Dropping back a little bit now.
500s ahead at the start, 400s ahead, 300s behind.
Wow, with that start time, he shouldn't be back here like this.
Well, it underlines just how good Johannes Lochner was. Lochner with the fastest start of the second heat so far.
Boy, these are great lines. The heads are barely moving in that sled. The aerodynamic profile's perfect. Just doesn't have the speed.
Yeah.
He's falling back.
Second place for the Springer, so not the disaster that Benny Meyer had.
Listen, I don't, that's a perfect run. And just it wasn't fast. So that's runners, or he's steering too much. The Swiss sled coming up, you're going to see him in a few. Rico Peters should have been arrested for reckless driving because he was all over the place and he was fast. This is a little perplexing for these guys because they know they had a great start time. They're on their home track. They were not fast.
Thanks for cheering, guys.
Springer.
Top of the track with Francesco Friedrich, 7 to go. Germany's Francesco Friedrich next on ice. Germany's Johannes Lochner is our current leader. And Friedrich had 0.09 of a second first heat advantage. That clock on the right, by the way, counts down from 60 and then goes red,
Watch
at which
this.
time you're not allowed to
75
start.
in the first run, 75 in the second run. Great start velocity. Boy, he had some issues down below on the track. This sled, the articulation was maxed out. This is a brand new Walder sled. He wanted the Walder sled last night.
Oh.
Hit that bump on the entrance to turn 5.
Yeah.
He's not the only person that's had that issue. One was 900s behind.
Won the first two-man races of the season last year. Won the first 3 two-man races and 2 four-man races.
Watch out here. This is where the problems were in the first heat. Nothing there. He was on guard for that big skid though in the 14. Speed, he might drop a couple places here.
He's going to drop 7 or 8 spots,
Wow.
6 positions. 6 positions drop for Francesco Friedrich.
Boy, ready space. They're tested equipment. Last night the two-man Walder sled was on its game. Tonight, Friedrich just didn't look confident coming down the sled, coming down this track. Look at here. And the skid. When you see the Cowan split like that, the articulation, that's not what you're supposed to do up where you're only going 40 or 50 miles an hour. Best start, shouldn't be back where he is.
He nearly crashed him in the first heat, not so bad in the second. This is Great Britain's Lamin Dean, 6th position after the first heat. Quarter of a second from the leader, 500ths from the medals. This is where it gets serious. Mark Lewis Francis, 4x100 meter Olympic gold medalist in Athens. Andy Matthews at 3. And Tremaine Gilling, another brand new first race brakeman. So there are 2 brand new starters on that Lamin Dean team. Johannes Lochner and his crew are race leaders for Germany. Lamin Dean with an 0.08 of a second advantage. I mean, they may as all well be lined up side by side on the start line. These gaps are so tiny.
13th best start in the first run. I'll guarantee you by the time the season's out, these guys aren't going to be having the 13th best start. Nice technique coming out. They didn't pick the sled up. Get in, get. Ooh, that wasn't a smooth slip
That's Andy
there.
Matthews at 3, but they get in 481. That's 300 quicker than their first run.
Not totally clean out of one.
But they know there is the chance of a medal, and that gives you an extra few hundreds, doesn't it? Tied for the lead.
He's been scratching on that podium door. Last year at the World Championships, crashed in the third run, probably would have won a World Championship medal. I really think this is going to be a breakout year for the British team. They've got some athletes in their pool.
I think Johannes Lochner may be hanging on here. 1100's back. He's now 1800s. This is a 4-spot loss.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we've got 11 sleds covered by 0.3 of a second in the top 10.
Wow. Another buddy else, someone else that comes in a second, 7th best time. So Johannes Lochner. There's Tasker there on the left.
Drove right to the two-man.
Yeah, he was 4th at the World Championships last year. The Britain's best finish at the World Championships in 50 years.
Now he's dropped down to 4th place behind Johannes Lochner, Chris Spring and Alex Istulnev. But don't forget that we have seen sleds lose much more ground, like Benny Meyer, like Francesco Friedrich, like Cody Basque and Nick Cunningham. So
the next three sleds are separated by 300s.
Yep.
Look at this. So Dean in this speed trap, Luder's Loop up around 678. He lost an 0.8 of a kilometer, about almost a half a mile an hour, just in that 100-meter section. Here's Lemon, the guardian of the Queen, right?
Yep.
Nice day job.
Yep. Not sure he does much guarding at the moment. He's busy with this. Maxim Andrianov of Russia, 5th after the first heat. He lies 400ths out of the medals. Race being led by Johannes Lochner of Germany, who has climbed from 11th position in Heat 1 to lead with 5 to go, and a disaster trying to get in. That was Yuri Selikov, couldn't get his heel over the crowd.
66.4, not very good. Boy, this Russian sled was flying on the bottom part of the track, and he's going to have all hands on deck here for the best ride of his life, because he's going to continue to slip.
He was in this group of 7 sleds covered by 0.08 of a second. He's already dropped 1800s.
He might get it back to single digits, but he's going to fall back, and Lochner's going to move up again.
The only man who's found a ladder here is Lochner. Everybody else has found a snake.
Yeah. Good way to put it. Speed not there. 19's holding on now, but his mistakes were made up top.
2/10 back, he'll drop 4 spots just ahead of Alex Istulnev, his teammate. In fact, he dropped 3 places. But at one stage, he was going to lose 7 or 8 spots. He really rallied low down in the track. Didn't let that, whatever it was behind him, he didn't see, but he would have felt the sled rocking. But he didn't let it distract him. That was a good drive, given the circumstances.
Look at the team. Look at them. They know. They practice that push dry land training. They practice it thousands of times, or hundreds of times in the summer together. Cohesiveness. And look at them get in. And look at that number. Look at just a slight mishap. And when you're going around the first curve and you're still shuffling your bodies around, that is friction, and not what you want.
Lots of rocking and rolling. Johannes Lochner still leads with 4 sleds to come here in the Olympic track in Whistler. Top 4 sleds in the season opener in the 4-man bobsleigh, covered by 0.22 of a second. Justin Cripps of Canada is in the mix for the medals. He is 300ths out of the medals. 1300ths his first round advantage over our current leader, Johannes Lochner,
who's moved up 5 places.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. These guys know they got a challenge. They're going to have to get 480 or better. 482 in the first run. Everybody else getting a lot quicker. There's the 480.
3 former CFL players behind Justin Cripps, who's a former bobsleigh brakeman.
Watch this curve, 4 to 5 right here. Watch the bump on the right side of our screen. Does he hit it? No, he misses it perfectly. Well, it might be home track advantage, but You know, he had some time go away here in the bottom part of the track, and he's down now.
Yep.
Ooh, slop there, too.
He's lost that 1400s. He's now 700s back. So Lochner was 2100s a second quicker on this run up to this point.
Losing more time. This show the track might have lost his speed, too.
Down to third place at the moment. Second place ahead of teammate Chris Spring. He's holding the deficit, but he won't catch Lochner.
He came back a little bit, 51.64, 2,500 slower in his second run than the first run, even though he had a better start. I gotta believe the track just doesn't have the speed that it did 6-8 sleds ago.
Could well be the case. Johannes Lochner, 11th in the first heat, leads with 3 to go.
Where did he come from? 9th?
11th.
11th?
11th.
Oh boy, this is.
Johannes Lochner is 2 minutes away from a medal.
Look at the difference here. So Cripps gained 3. He was on the bottom. He was 17 down. He only came back to be 9 down. So Cripps did get him in the bottom part of the track in that gold rush.
Yeah. But will it be enough?
Yeah, we got to hold this one.
Johannes Lochner leads, Justin Cripps in second, Chris Spring in third. 3 sleds to go. They might none of them get a medal. John, they might all of them get a medal. This is going to be unbelievably tight. We have got a Russian, a Swiss, and an American. And the American, in February 2010, became the 4-man Olympic champion on this track. It's this man, Stephen Holcomb.
Valdez, Reed, Mishner, didn't have a very good start. 484 in the first run. Driving on 42. Brand new BMW 4-man prototype. They didn't think they'd be racing it. Boy, he hit hard out of that first curve. If this is red numbers here, that'll be the spot that it's only down to 7. Wow, he had a huge lead on Lochner.
2600s it was. It's now 700s. It may be in the red at the next clock.
He was flying on the bottom.
Oh, and he is behind. Brand new BMW 4-man. First ever race for this sled.
Tough adjustment there. He's hanging in there. Speed on the bottom. He can still catch him.
Still 200s in it.
He's a speed merchant here. If there's anybody who can find that line, it'd be Holcomb.
Stuck at 150. Can't get to 150.
There's a medal.
Not enough.
There's a medal from what play? 11th to 3rd?
11th. Only so far to 3rd for Johannes Lochner.
We aren't done yet.
Holcomb is 2nd. Cripps is 3rd. They may all get a medal yet.
Yeah. The way Rico Peter came down the track in the first run, anything's possible.
Well, Holcomb 51.61 is the fastest run since Johannes Lochner 8 sleds ago, who set a 51.42.
Yeah, that mishap up on the exit of curve 1 was the problem. Right here, watch this bank. That's a hard bank. After when you're coming out of a 7-story building right there, and you got to let the sled go away. You can't hit like that.
Catching a window ledge on the way down.
Well, yeah, the guy's only got about 7-8 trips in this sled, so I mean,
it's the feel that he needs to find with the steering, the feel to interpret what it's telling him on the ice.
Start time also got him.
2 to go.
Okay.
Rico Peter redefining wild on his first trip with Bror van der Zijde, Simon Friedli, and Thomas Amrine, the crew.
Say it again, they would have given him a ticket for reckless driving in the first run. It was
won a 2-man race here last year with an equally wild approach.
Yeah, and he had a silver medal last night in the 2-man race here. So I mean,
again, scared everyone on the way down.
480, okay, 7th best start. You got 20/100ths lead, and that's not perfect, but pretty good. But watch this exit of curve 4 to 5 is where he almost tipped over the first run. Coming up right here, watch the right side of your screen. Does he hit the bump? That's much better than he did in the first run. But he was so loose all the way down the track, and he was fast.
This is a little more controlled, a little tighter. He is losing time. He might just stay in front of Johannes Lochner. This could
that's a hard hit there. Watch out. No, perfect.
Got away with it.
This is going to be close. 18
now. He's got it away. Look at the speed. 152, 153.
This is a great run.
Good
51.43.
Finally beats Lochner.
And what a weekend for Rico Peter. Look at the Rico. I mean,
silver medal last night in the 2-man, silver guaranteed in the 4-man.
you know, the Swiss are famous for coming down the track, hitting everything in sight, being fast, and all he's doing is extending that Swiss legacy, because he's the loosest person down the track in both heats of anybody.
Yep.
You know, and this sled is, if you don't, you know, the secret is don't steer. But on this track, you gotta steer. And he's not, look how low he is. Good aerodynamic profile by the team.
Rico Peter leads, Johannes Lochner second, Stephen Holcomb third. One sled to go. No pressure whatsoever then for Alexander Kasyanov. Has never won a 4-man World Cup race.
Didn't he start Park City last year?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, one World Cup win under his belt.
I think he's silver medal.
Alexei Zaitsev, yeah, he took a silver medal behind Zhukov here about 3 seasons back. Alexei Pushkarev, Maxim Belugin. Pressure time.
Good start in the first run.
Huge start and a big drive as well.
Should be 478 at least, if not better. Real efficient. Getting in and out. There's the 478. Now watch the line. Perfect. This guy, if he gets a start time, he could be lethal out here. Finished 4th in the 2-man and 4-man at the Sochi Winter Olympic Games. He didn't have a good start. Just had great drives down the track. And he puts a good drive in here. He's going to walk away with a gold medal.
This will be the split that tells us he was 1400s up. He is 1800s up.
Stepping away. That's not bad. That little
Drops
tap.
nicely into 9 and 10.
Good aerodynamic profile of the team. Watch the heads here. Perfect. Boy, that was just as clean as anybody.
210's clear, and the team will know it. The guys in the sled will feel how fast it is.
Oh, he's flying.
300s up, 153 kilometers.
94 plus miles an hour.
95.1 miles an hour, and victory.
What a weekend.
Second career win for Alexander Kasyanov of Russia. Led the first heat, won it in the second. Rico Peter silver, Johannes Lochner bronze. The 2010 Olympic champion on this track, Stephen Holcomb, edged out into 4th.
Top 5 sleds, 5 different countries.
Look how good that felt.
I tell you, this guy gets that type of start. He's always got this, the 3rd best start. He usually has the 8th, 9th, 10th best starts, and he's really competitive.
Second fastest push in the first heat, 3rd fastest in the second heat. It was an identical push.
Nice guy, too.
Yep.
Really nice.
Quietly spoken, lets his driving do the talking, and with that team behind him, could this be his season? Could he be the man who steps into the shoes of Max Arndt?
If he gets a start, he could be the guy, because he has got eyes and hands as good as anybody.
Well, listen, he was in 4th position in the Olympic Games in Sochi. Where are this year's World Championships?
Sochi, Russia.
Alexander Kasyanov starts his World Cup campaign with a victory in another Olympic track, the 2010 facility here in Whistler. He claims the gold medal. He led in the first heat by 1100s. He nearly doubled that advantage over Rico Peter to go away and win by 2/10 in a race that was otherwise insanely tight. Look how close they were from Johannes Lochner on back. Barely more than 300 or 400s between any of the sleds in the top 10. And the big winner, Johannes Lochner, 11th in the first heat, up to 3rd. Well, what that tells us about his sled, I have no clue whatsoever. Rubbish in the first heat, genius in the second. That is our finishing order. It's a historic day for Alexander Kasyanov of Russia, his 2nd career 4-man win.
Out of breath?
Well, we started the weekend with a huge emotional outpouring with Elizabeth Archer winning the women's skeleton gold medal after the most wretched 2nd year in the sport I think that it's been anybody's mispleasure to suffer. And she came back and won gold, going away by over 0.8 of a second from, again, an insanely tightly packed field. And has continued all the way to the 4-man. We had the top 10 covered by 0.3, 4th to 11th, covered by 0.08 of a second. And it was that close grouping that allowed Johannes Lochner, there he is, to leap over so many
11th
others.
to 3rd. Wow.
Yeah, that's a game of leapfrog. Really, you know, I said it was going to be snakes and ladders. Almost everybody found a snake. Lochner and Kasyanov found the ladders on their second run.
Still think that Rico Peter is going to get a ticket from somebody for the way he came down this track. How he ended up with the silver medal for 2 consecutive nights. He just doesn't steer.
Yeah.
He has no control of the sled. And, you know, if you don't steer,
well, it's got walls to keep you on the track, so why not use them? You know, I don't know. It works for him. It works for him. He did rein it in just a little. I think maybe he even slightly scared himself, or worried himself at least, in the first heat. But in the second heat, just reined it in a fraction. But that was enough for a second silver medal of the season for him, as Alexander Kasyanov wins the 4-man. And it was German winning the 2-man race in the form of Francesco Friedrich. Friedrich ending up in 12th place here in tonight's 4-man. Whistler Sliding Centre, the season opener in the 4-man World Cup, and Alexander Kasyanov of Russia, our race winner, is the leader from Rico Peter and Johannes Lochner, who could, on any other day, perhaps have just stuck in 11th place, but today he managed to somehow vault himself up into the bronze medal at the expense of Stephen Holcomb, who was 3rd after the first heat. John Morgan, this track always produces drama and excitement, and it has produced some unbelievably close racing as well.
Yeah, the World Championships are here in 2019 in bobsled and skeleton, and what we just saw here tonight is a preview of what that'll look like. Spectacular venue to have a bobsled track in, and this venue, this track itself, fastest in the world. Very entertaining for you and I to sit here and call these races, I can tell you that.
It has been a real adrenaline pumper to start the season. And in 2 weeks from now, we head to Lake Placid in upstate New York, which is just as exciting. Alexander Kasyanov will have the World Cup points lead. Kasyanov last year in 5th position with a silver medal in Lake Placid and a win in Park City in the 4-man. He started his campaign this year with a win in Whistler. And next he will go to Lake Placid. Last year he was beaten there by Max Arndt, who has since retired. Kasyanov is already your favourite. The Russians claim the gold. Rico Peter for the 2nd straight night. And the Whistler Sliding Centre, the silver medalist, he's still breathing a sigh of relief after that slightly wild and very loose pair of runs. And Johannes Lochner tossing his helmet nonchalantly, 11th to 3rd. The other German sleds, Nico Walter was 10th, Francesco Friedrich in 12th. So again, what they learned testing equipment here, I have no idea, but that's why they pay the coaches the big money. What I do know is that Alexander Kasyanov will be feeling no pain in Whistler Village this evening. John Montgomery, twin pitchers of beer? Who knows? It might just be. And that brings the season opening weekend to a close here at the Whistler Sliding Centre. On behalf of the whole crew here, for John Morgan, I'm Martin Haven, saying thank you for joining us for all our action. We'll be back a fortnight from now in Lake Placid in beautiful upstate New York. Join us then. Until then, goodbye from Whistler.